Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Direct to YouTube special. Before I get started, I just want to say I'm still looking for donations for January for decks to be featured on the stream. If you're interested in seeing your content on Twitch and later on YouTube, the donation information is in the description for this video. But enough of the ads. You already know about the like, comment, subscribes sort of stuff that helps out the channel. It means more to me than you could possibly know. Unless you're a content creator, then you get it. Okay, today we're going to be playing 12 Post, named after Glimmer Post plus Cloud Post plus things like Vesuva, and actually sometimes also Thespian Stage, copying it. So today we're playing a list from the recent 5.0 decklist dump that I thought was interesting for a couple of reasons. Most importantly, this is a return to the colorless version of the build. Now, recently, more of these Cloud Post decks have been playing Elvish Reclaimer, which gives you a decent amount of agency in finding silver bullets like Bojuka Bog, as you saw in my recent Dredge video that absolutely destroyed me. The ability to tutor up like Bojuka Bog plus Wasteland plus Caracas plus God knows what else was really annoying. But I've often found that those decks are kind of clunky, and they're trying to do a handful of things, and you don't always have the green mana you need to cast the Elvish Reclaimer on one. You know, the second Once Upon a Time is not nearly as good as the first. So when I saw a list that just went back to some of the old goodness of Thought-Knot Seer, Reality Smasher, and just good colorless mana, I was ready to give it a shot. As far as deck building goes, I think there's a couple of interesting things going on here. Number one, look at the count for Chalice of the Void. There's only 3 of these. And this might be due to, in part, the fact that Oko is everywhere and Chalice isn't as strong of a lock piece as it used to be. And so, as a nod to Oko, you can see Sorcerous Spyglass here, which can stop things like Wasteland generically in a vacuum. Otherwise, it can answer one of the most problematic cards that this deck might be facing down. You know, if you play a Reality Smasher, hit your opponent for 5, and all of a sudden it's an Elk, womp womp, as they say. At the top end of this deck, we have a couple of Ugins, we have Ulamog, we have Emrakul, and of course we have the ability to find those via Eye of Ugin. That's our inevitability versus slower decks. We do have a Golos Tireless Pilgrim, which can help us find that card, although it can also find Cascading Cataracts to activate its own ability, or Caracas to bounce itself and just go ham. We are playing a Wastes here so that we can get some value out of things like Path to Exile, and Assassin's Trophy. Our sideboard isn't overly exciting. It's mostly a Karn package. The only other thing I'm really excited about from this list is Forsaken Monument, which is something that's been seeing a lot of play in Historic. It's sort of a double anthem for your colorless creatures. It's also basically a mana doubler. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, you get an additional colorless. So it doesn't really double, like your Cloud Posts aren't going to go from making 5 to 10, but getting another mana out of all of your lands is really strong. And it also has some life gain attached to help with Delver. You know, if you make it too close to the end game at 2 life, a Lightning Bolt is going to kill you. But all of a sudden, if you cast 2 or 3 more spells, you're sitting pretty. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some matches and see how this feels. So I'm on the draw with a little bit of an interesting hand here. I have 2 Reality Smashers, which is incredibly aggressive. And if I draw another post, I can do turn 3 into turn 4 Reality Smashers, which is pretty strong. I can also start on a Sorcerous Spyglass to kind of buy some time and maybe mise one of my opponent's fetch lands. I think this one is keepable, despite the fact that it doesn't quite do anything impressive right now. Of note, I tied the die roll with my opponent twice before getting things started here. Okay, wonderful. Do I want a Sorcerous Spyglass on 1? And Sorcerous Spyglass on 1. Cloud Post on 2, Glimmer Post on 3, that's fine. And then this has the greatest chance of actually hitting a fetch land. We could just be playing Delver. And this gets dazed, and then womp womp, I have shocked myself. Alright, so I see Brainstorm, Force of Negation, Island, Ponder, Swords. What do I name in this scenario? If my opponent is just playing a blue-white deck, naming Oko is not correct. I could just name Teferi. That's something that's likely to be in my opponent's deck. Or I could just name another Flooded Strand. That's almost certainly a 4 of. I'm gonna go ahead and try to attack the mana here. That doesn't do anything right now. Maybe it'll do something later. The first Reality Smasher is going to be a 2-for-1. Source of Plowshares is going to take that away. That's okay. Note that I've kind of made Ponder worse by decreasing the power of a fetch land. But only kind of. Alright, that was a shuffle. Good stuff. Another Cloud Post is gas. Don't mind seeing that. So I get to play Smasher into Smasher, and then hopefully my opponent just dies to that. Your name Tarn. The Grim Monolith doesn't really do anything. We'll see what my opponent junks in order to Swords to Plowshares this. Unless they just like Mai's Terminus. So whenever this thing becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, I counter that unless they discard a card. So Reality Smasher, most of the time, is a 2-for-1 to take it off the table. Yep. I did get a Flooded Strand. That was a strange little value play that my opponent got there. I respect it. So I guess naming Flooded Strand worked out pretty well. I can be thinking about moving a Blast Zone towards a number that kills Planeswalkers. I don't exactly know what my opponent's finisher suite is going to look like yet. I don't know if they're going to be on, like, Jace or Teferi. Okay, no land drop there. Ooh, Karn. I know my opponent has a... well, I suspect my opponent still has a Force of Negation. That's probably a more accurate way to put that. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can turn that into 6. I think I want to be able to Karn next turn. I think I just want to work on this damage now. Also plays the Reality Smasher around days, if that's something that I need to do. I don't really know that it is. I think my opponent keeps the Force of Negation around. They have Karns to be thinking about. They have Ugins to be thinking about. Like, I think that's a card that's valuable, despite the fact that I just, like, played Reality Smasher into Reality Smasher. Alright, they found the 4th land with that Brainstorm. Well, shit! Alright, Karn resolving would be cool. This is also pretty darn good. I can also just, like, Walking Ballista and nuke that. This is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 mana available this turn. I can just Walking Ballista for 5. That dodges the Force of Negation that I know about. Yeah, I don't hate it. How big can I tick Blast Zone in one go? So it's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can just tick Blast Zone up to 4 and try to get more value out of my in-play Reality Smasher. That's pretty sick. It is. Yeah. Sacrifice next turn. And that's probably something that my opponent can't interact well with. I'm good with it. If my opponent had a Stifle, that would savage me. I'm not expecting it when I'm seeing this. I'm thinking that either the blue or the white court are relatively likely. I think the white one makes angels if you're the monarch. So that's my guess as to what the finisher is here. We'll see, though. That is my opponent's 4th Brainstorm, by the way. So that is no longer a thing they have access to, unless they also have cards like Snapcaster Mage in their deck. Alright, so this Ponder is going to almost certainly shuffle away whatever cards they just put back off the Brainstorm. Now I don't actually know whether they have Force of Negation. Alright, X is currently 3. That ends with 4 counters on it. Done. Reread this real quick, make sure I'm not an idiot. Destroy each non-land permanent. Yep, okay. Let's go. See if I can get 5 damage in with Reality Smasher. I can. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3. I guess playing Caracas is probably better. See if I can resolve this. Okay. Ooh, my opponent had Teferi, so that's kind of one thing they were thinking about. So now I will go ahead and pay 2 life in order to put this Grim Monolith in play. And then that means that a Walking Ballista next turn is potentially lethal. Three, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I can Walking Ballista for X equals 7 next turn. Like, no fear, get him. Again! Again with the moat. Obviously, I respect it. Does this actually net me mana playing it? So I tap 2 lands. guess this actually nets me mana playing it. Well, no, I get 3 mana out of playing it. Then I can Walking Ballista and shoot them in the face for 7 right now. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But if I play Forsaken Monument, then next turn I can just cast a lethal Walking Ballista. It might be better to put them to the Force of Will test right there before they can do anything else. But leaving them at 1 life with a moat in play is really awkward if they just answer my card. Start here. I think we start here. Casually tapping 2 lands to play Ugin the Spirit Dragon. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can Ballista for X equals 6 afterwards. Oh, we don't even need to. Nice. Okay, so we're gonna look for answers to moat in the sideboard. How many answers to moat do I have in the sideboard? Ah, that's it's not a lot. Meteor Golem in the sideboard, though, as a Karn Wish target is like oddly very specifically good here. I don't know that I'm going to be sideboarding at all. Like, I could board in a Relic of Progenitus for replenish-based reasons. I could board in a Trinisphere. I could board in a Spyglass. Maybe I should board in a Ballista, just as another card that can help win through a moat. If my opponent has a moat in play and I resolve a Karn, I can, like, Lattice Lock them and then Meteor Golem, or like, eventually Walking Ballista kill or something. Yeah, I think I like bringing the Ballista in. So now the other question is, like, what are my feelings on Trinisphere? I guess also, what are my feelings on Chalice of the Void? Both cards are fine, but not insane. I think stopping opposing counterspells is pretty darn good. I think I'm going to board in the Trinisphere. I'm going to leave 1 Spyglass as a tutor target, and then that means I need to board out 2 cards, 1 for Trinisphere, 1 for Walking Ballista. Warping Whale is It can counter a Terminus, but most of the time I'm only going to have 1 creature. I think just cutting that is fine, because I think most of the time I'm just going to hit like a Ponder with it. I think I like this. I wonder whether or not I'm favored. These sorts of decks tend to go over the top of decks like Blue-White Miracles, but my opponent having a pile of moats is, like, a thing. I think this hand is too risky. I'm just gonna go ahead and mulligan, try to find something that's a little bit safer. Alright, keep this. Cloudpost into Vesuva. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. I can theoretically just, like, play a very early Ugin and hope that that gets there. I'm gonna bin Wastes in case my opponent is playing Path to Exile. And even though I want this card, I think I just keep the hand that allows me to Ugin as consistently as possible. Oh, that's a very good draw. I'm quite happy with that. That means that I can check and see if the coast is clear prior to committing Ugin to the board. Copy Cloud Post. Play Grim Monolith. We're off to a pretty good start for a Mulda 5, but my opponent hasn't played anything yet, which, has me slightly fearful. What do you got? Are you gonna, standstill me? Gonna Teferi me? Teferi bounce Grim Monolith? Take that as a tempo play? Fuck. That's not good. That is good. 3, 4, 5. Is this gonna resolve? I think I play Thought-Knots here. And it's so hard to, get 4 mana to put into this and then make it sacrifice. Oh, no, that's not gonna work. I don't know that this is actually gonna resolve. I'm going to go ahead and cast a Thought-Knots here. I'm down a bunch of cards, and my opponent has a crippling hate card against me. I'm going to see if I can maybe aggro them out in the short term. Oh god, no, why? Crucible of Worlds, too. I really feel like I am not getting there this game. I guess I take the Planeswalker. So I'm going to lose this Thought-Knots here. I'm then going to have, 1 mana versus my opponent's Back to Basics. They're going to have Crucible of Worlds in play, which means access to approximately a bajillion D mana. Don't know that that's the correct timing to use that spell. I don't know what exactly that timing gains them. I don't know. I guess they don't really need to be playing around me flopping something like a Reality Smasher into play, so it's probably fine. This Brainstorm is so good because of these fetch lands and Crucible. I will be conceding as soon as my opponent finds anything relevant. I probably should just concede now. If I'm being 100% honest, I feel like I'm most of the way dead. But I'm at 24, and my opponent probably doesn't have that many, actual factual win conditions in their deck. There's one. Okay, now that my opponent has a threat in play, I'm going to go ahead and back it up. I know a Hull Breacher isn't really all that big of a threat, but I think I am dead. I'm not going to prolong it for the 5%er. So this is something that can kill Hull Breacher. Hull Breacher is something that I need to respect a little bit more than usual because of Days Undoing. Days Undoing plus Hull Breacher is very good things for the control deck. I don't really know that I have more answers to something like Back to Basics, so I'm just going to submit and hope that my opponent doesn't really have that. This hand's great. Well, actually, it's probably just good. It's turn 3 Thought-Knots here into turn 4 Thought-Knots here into Reality Smasher, and, like, Golos finds fun things along the way. If I rip a Soul Land specifically, I want to play Eldrazi Temple here, but otherwise, I want to play Cloud Post since it ETB's tapped. My best possible draws involve me playing Eldrazi Temple, but my average to below average draws want me to play Cloud Post this turn. So I am going to not play towards the highest possible upside line. Maybe that's wrong, though, because I can just play Cloud Post tapped on turn 2. Yeah, this is the punish for that. Yep, okay. I should have just played the Eldrazi Temple. I realized just a little bit too late that the Cloud Post tapped on 2 is approximately the same as the Cloud Post tapped on 1, except that in this exact scenario. So I could have Thought Knotted this turn, followed by Thought Knot, followed by Reality Smasher. I actually lost out probably on, like, legitimately, like, 5% by sequencing my land wrong there. We'll pretend that the importance of playing around days there was critical. All right. Fauna has all sorts of goodness. So just confirm 1/1 spirit token. If you're the monarch, you get a 4/4 instead. So I can take that out of your hand later. I kind of like just taking the swords to plowshares. That way, if my opponent wants to answer Thought Not Seer, it requires more of the mana on their turn. Don't mind that. Get a fresh look at their hand. Multiple hull breachers. I don't think I want to introduce the Monarch into this game. I know I can take it, but that's probably something that ends up favoring my opponent quite a bit. Go ahead and take that. And now I could just Walking Ballista for X=1 here in order to take that Teferi off the table and not chance it at all that they get a second activation out of it. Given the relative strength of this hand, I think I am fine with that. Normally, I wouldn't make this play. This is not how this unfair deck is looking to use Walking Ballista, but I think it makes sense here. So I'm going to suspect that Hall of Heliod's Generosity will get shuffled away if my opponent has the opportunity to shuffle here. So my mana for Golos isn't nearly as good as my mana for everything else here. There is a world where my opponent now has a Terminus on top of their deck. I don't know that I'm going to respect that world. What happens if I play Golos this turn? It costs me all my mana. And then I can fetch, like, Cloud Post or Ayavugan. If I fetch Cloud Post, can I double spell next turn? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, I can. That's actually pretty appealing. Golos is the thing that I am least scared about losing to a Terminus, because it has ETB value. Maybe I played too scared by playing Golos here. My other cards are more aggressive and proactive. I guess I just get set up for further punish if my opponent does find a Terminus. I don't think I can beat the back to basics. Well, I don't know. I will have 7 power in play. Actually, can I get Ayavugan and still double spell next turn? It's effectively a 4 mana land on its own. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I should just get the Ayavugan then. I mean, makes sense with the Crucible, but it does sting a little bit. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, well, that's one of the worst misclicks I've done in the past year. What's 7 damage amongst friends? Alright, I don't know that I win after my opponent's Supreme Verdicts after back to basicing anyway. But this has not been a good game for me in terms of technical play. I talked myself through the correct land drop on turn 1 just a little bit too slowly, and I lost a lot of tempo by doing that. And again, if my opponent has a threat here, I think I just scoop this up. I could try to grind this out, but I don't really think that I'm getting there at this point, and I'd rather just keep the content flowing. GG's, opponent. I was the worst player this match. Round 2 is starting off with a weak opening hand. We don't get to keep the one lander with our thing that's looking to cast 11 and 15 drops. This is a hand that hurts me quite a bit, but is probably good as a whole. I think I'm going to throw back the All is Dust. That's a card that I don't know whether or not it will be good in a vacuum. But right now we're looking at a turn 2 Reality Smasher or Karn, which is pretty strong. We'll see whether or not I'm going to need to Vesuva an Ancient Tomb. Dark Ritual. Arkham's Astrolabe. Okay, so we're playing against some sort of snow deck. Honestly, drawing more threats is totally fine. So I will be leaning towards casting Karn on turn 2 because it now also shuts off the Astrolabe, in addition to just threatening my opponent's mana greatly. Sylvan Library. Resolves. Okay, what am I doing this turn? Yeah, if I play the Soul Land, I can just play Karn without using Grim Monolith. And then if Karn gets Force of Willed or Force of Negation, I still have the Grim Monolith for a future turn. But then I lose the City of Traders if I end up playing another land. How do I feel about that? I think I like that. This Grim Monolith is quite valuable currently. We will be getting Sorceress Spyglass here. Oh, I meant liquid metal coating. I guess this is what we're doing instead, as it has resolved. I will name Flooded Strand. So, going through what actually went through my mind there, my thought was we will be getting liquid metal coating because we can knock our opponent off of a color, and then that keeps them off of Oko, and even if they did get an Oko, I could just Sorcerer Spyglass it. But that's not what the hand did. My opponent can play Ice Fang Coatl and Pressure Karn. I can just play a Reality Smasher and threaten their life total that way. Oh, actually, my opponent can't really just play Ice Fang Coatl, huh? They're off colors. They have no green mana here. The line just bash my opponent for 7. Line might be bash my opponent for 7. Not good if they have, like, Fatal Push. Otherwise, it's fine. I could also just take my whatchamacallit now, my liquid metal coating now. Don't really hate that either. But getting my opponent dead might be the line. Yeah. Let's work on that. This just, like, immediately puts my opponent under so much pressure. There hasn't been a concession yet. I haven't gotten the game-ending lag burst yet. Oh, there it is. There's the game-ending lag burst that I'm so accustomed to from Moto. Please tell me that the game has ended. There, all right, there it is. All right, so I did not do what I intended to do that game. So I would have gotten liquid metal coating and essentially Rashad ported a land for 1 turn and then started blowing up lands. I arrive at a similar spot, but I messed up. All right, so what do we like versus this snow deck? This is slightly different from the previous deck in that we don't have moat to worry about. Excuse me. I think Trinisphere is just okay here. Actually, ah, no, I don't really like Warping Whale. Like, it can exile the X1 Ice Fang Coatls. But this stuff is not really how I'm looking to win this match. It's like these and this and this and like the big scary creatures that are off screen are how I'm actually looking to win. So I think I'm going to board those out, and I think that's going to give me a Trinisphere and a Walking Ballista in the deck. Actually, Relic of Progenitus might be good enough as a main deck inclusion because of how annoying Uro is. Let's do one of those in. I think I need to keep the Spyglasses for Oko. That card is obnoxious. Not new news. Maybe trim a Chalice of the Void. I don't actually think Chalice is all that crazy good versus these snow decks. It's fine. It's a nice tool to have, but they have things at such varied casting costs. Let's hydrate. Oof, what an awkward hand. So we have two lands, and one of them is kind of a soul land, but not for the cards that I have. I don't have the ability to cast any of these things. I don't think Relic of Progenitus is strong enough to actually keep a hand on. Despite the fact that I'm on the draw and that this is one of my best possible cards to have in the matchup, I think I mulligan this. Keep. Now, what goes back? Cloud Post. This hand is Sorcerer Spyglass on 1, Thought-Knot Seer on 2. Ink. That's kind of a painful existence. I could slow roll this a little bit and play Cloud Post on 1 into Cloud Post on 2. And that means I'm less likely to lose to like an Oko pivot in the mid game. Maybe that's better. It has less velocity. Let's keep the hand with velocity on the draw. But sound off in the comments about what you think about that specific decision. I think that one's really interesting. If I were on my own, I would probably sit there and like puzzle through that for 3 or 4 minutes. Because I think that spot's really interesting. Like, how important is the velocity that this card offers you? Yeah, that draw kind of puts me in a similar situation again. I'm going to stick with the velocity-based play. What did that Ponder do? Okay, that Ponder did not shuffle. So there's presumably a land on top of their library that they have hidden from Sorcerer Spyglass. Oh, go! So, ouch. It feels kind of like this has to get Force of Willed. Like, force pitch the Oko that's dead. Yeah. So just like talking about like the mulligan decision again. If my opponent were to resolve like an Oko or Uro, like they don't have much work to do to finish me off. So maybe keeping the more conservative Cloud Post hand is correct. Like that's a really weird spot. But anyway, I started casting Eldrazi. This Walking Ballista is fine, but slightly awkward for me. I don't mind the 4 life. That's for sure. Four life is a turn worth of tapping both Ancient Tombs. Walking Ballista starting to look awful juicy. Then my opponent will just play an Uro and nothing will matter. Is fine. I can only cast a Walking Ballista for X equals 2 next turn. Is that fine, though? So I cast it for 2, I play Cloud Post, then I play Cloud Post again. Then I have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, that might be fine. That might be enough dedicated damage. Especially with that in the bin. That just probably means that I get to very easily kill my opponent next turn. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Forsaken Monument won't resolve because of Force of Negation, though. Maybe it would. So let's just cast this turn. And pumping next turn is still really good. An Uro this turn from my opponent is pretty spooky. But otherwise, I have double pump plus laser to the face available. And that represents a lethal line. My opponent could have any number of things to stop it. Which they should use on their turn, if they have something. Because the threat of me playing another land, another post land specifically, well, I guess it's any land, and having a better chance of sneaking 3 damage rather than 2 damage with a Walking Ballista is super relevant. Now, another non-conventional line here is that our opponent could take 4 off of Sylvan Library and just let me end the suffering now. Don't think they went for that one, though. Uro. Uro. I could have cast a Walking Ballista for X equals 6 on my turn if I had played Forsaken Monument first, which isn't lethal either. I don't know whether or not this Force of Negation will actually still be there. Only getting 2 damage out of the Walking Ballista kind of sucks. But that's okay. I'm going to get hit in chunks of 6, so it is not that big of a deal if I tap an Ancient Tomb this turn. Well, it is in some ways, because now that I've tapped that, me casting one spell with a Forsaken Monument later doesn't put me out of double Uro range. But now we're probably looking at Emrakul mana. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, plus another 6, yeah. Let's rip an Emrakul off the top. We'll accept Olamog as well. That would be fine, dandy, swell even. Is that Force of Negation still there? Let's find out. And this casts this, right? Yeah. All right. They did still have it. So now this is the good old-fashioned Sylvan Library plus Uro combo. I need to rip something big and dumb off the top of the library. Preferably one of the things that has an on-cast trigger, but not gonna be too picky here. I guess that's a Death Toucher for, like, Thought-Knot Seer and friends. Alright, well, let's figure out what this does. Oh god, you're right. So much mana. Alright. Step 1, cast Karn, see if it resolves. If it doesn't, I'm at exactly 8 life, and they have 8 power in play. Okay. GG. Go back to the drawing board. Top of the library was great, but opponent's Sylvan Library plus Uro just did so much work. I know my opponent has Plague Engineers now. I think I'm going to go ahead and keep everything the same. Like, I like Sorcerer's Spyglass a decent amount, but I also want to be able to tutor for it. And otherwise, I don't have too much flexibility. Facial Contortion and Warping Whale are both kind of And Uro touches the graveyard and whatnot, but I don't think we care about it enough to want to be on the Leyline of the Void side of the spectrum. This has good threat density to land ratio, but none of these lands produce additional mana. I'm going to go ahead and ship this. This I will keep. I think this goes back. I am tempted. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I can keep the 15 drop in hand when I can only produce 7 mana. I think just playing Thought Knot into Karn or some variation thereof is just going to be very strong. Perfect Mana Machine has arrived. Oh god, another Thought Knot. Strong. Copy Cloud Post. And then beginning next turn, we just spit straight fire. $23. I think we start with a Thought Knots here. 3, 6, 7. I could actually start with a Sorcerous Spyglass. I suppose. I'll also start with Karn, but I think Karn is the follow-up next turn. I guess I can force my opponent to fetch now before they know Thought Knot Seer is coming. What you got? Well, I'm gonna name Oko. And then we're gonna start bashing. This probably gets Force of Will pitching at 1 Oko. Called it. My opponent can, like, get rid of this Sorcerous Spyglass, but has to do so at a relatively high cost. Really wanted to land this turn. So I'm guessing that this Thought Knot Seer gets Force of... Oh, it just resolved. That's really interesting. My opponent has played a strange game with me. They did not counter the Thought Knot Seer. So I could just, like, take their Oko. I could just take the Dead of Winter. They're presumably going to try to Abrupt Decay Sorcerer Spyglass and then play Oko. The worlds where I get to resolve this Karn are all pretty good for me. This decision's really interesting. I could also just, like, take the Abrupt Decay and make their Oko kind of worthless. But then my Karn's less likely to resolve later. What an interesting decision. If I take the Abrupt Decay, then they just end up pitching the Oko to a Force of Will in the next turn cycle. Maybe that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Decay. It's a weird spot. It just, like, takes their castable card now and means that they have to draw a land in order to do anything. They did draw the land, which makes their Force of Negation a little bit better. I guess that means I thought not Seer here. And then take the Dead of Winter. This probably gets Force of Willed pitching the Oko. But I'm good with that. This game is secretly about the Karns. My opponent doesn't know that yet, since they're hiding in my hand, but the Karn is really what matters. Two of my opponent's Okos are now in exile. They probably just cast this Dead of Winter. They don't know if they're supposed to just cast there. It's pretty good if they draw into a blue card. I suppose. Alright, it is just resolved. I have 3 mana remaining. And I know they have Force of Negation. I think I'm going to go ahead and work on their lands. Three, 6, 7 is an awkward amount of mana. With 8, I could Sorcerer Spyglass and then also go for, you know, quote unquote, the kill with Lattice. I think I'm very favored. Snowlands first? Maybe Snowlands first. Or just pop the Relic. Eh. Relic sitting in play is just such good insurance. Baracus. Okay. Name to Fairy. There's not too many things that I super care about that my opponent can be doing. So once I have ripped my opponent off of Force of Negation, I can start thinking about Mycosynth Lattice locking my opponent. But they're just going to go ahead and concede here, and I do not blame them. So I do like how I played this match. So I had the opportunity to go for a win, and I just waited that out. I knew about my opponent's force of negation, and I didn't want to take any chances there. And I just kind of like patiently did my thing with an extra threat in the hole and with a couple of extra answers there. So that redeems some of my earlier play a bit. All right. Back for the next round. My opening hand doesn't have too much gas. I have really good mana and a walking ballista, as well as like 2 sorceress spyglasses. I'm gonna keep this, but this hand is like pretty borderline. I don't know if like double sorceress spyglass on the play is something that's actually good. It's gonna be like really situational depending on what deck my opponent is playing. Delver. In which case, spyglass is probably not great. But ballista is fine, and all his dust is good. Come on, lucky spyglass. Okay. So we name sneak attack instead, huh? All right. Okay. So I will live in a little bit of fear for these next couple of turns. My opponent is on a faster than normal build of Sneak and Show with Lotus Petals and Simian Spirit Guide. So they are gonna go. But they have like very much have to fear casting a show and tell against me because I am an Emrakul deck myself. Well, I'm playing an Emrakul deck. I am not actually the physical embodiment of magic cards. And if I were, I wouldn't be Emrakul. I don't have like the muscles or the creepy tentacles for that. I guess Spyglass again. Okay, Daze is in there as well. My opponent does have the show and tell. Oop, too many spaces. And Grizzlebrand with that one. And pass the turn. It is unclear whether or not my opponent will just jam the show and tell, or whether or not they're going to like try to play towards a situation where they could beat me putting in an Eldrazi. Given their mana acceleration, I'm not really sure. Oh, they're gone. Think I can all his dust that away? No? Caracas would be hot? Well, you gotta play for him. Alright, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 towards Eldrazi spells. I know those are gone. I could rip Caracas off the top. If I rip Caracas off the top, I want more permanents in play so I can keep some lands. Okay, so now this daze is off. Oh god, an X spell. And Trinisphere. What have I done? Alright, is it all of these? Then adjust down to 1. Okay, no. Adjust. Choose the value of X. 1. Okay. Okay, at least 3 mana. I've done that. God, fuck this interface. Alright. Adjust. May change the value of X. The value of X is 1. Okay. Mana. Done. I have no idea how I did that, but it worked. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this gives me a good out. Cast Spirit Guide. I respect that. I respect that a lot. Alright. Did not rip the singleton. The Spirit Guide's like super important to have in play if I do rip the Caracas. I have relatively good tools for the matchup in the main deck. It didn't pan out that time. I think that's okay. I think I want to board in a Trinisphere. I think I want to board in another Spyglass. The rest of this stuff can stay in the board. I'll leave Bridge as a very strong wish target. I need to board out 2 things. I don't think Walking Ballista is where I'm going to want to be most of the time. Let's junk that. And honestly, I'd probably kill with something this size most of the time rather than something this sized. I might junk Forsaken Monument. That just doesn't seem like the most relevant thing I can be doing. I don't really want to cut any of these 3 because they're so good to be put in off show and tell. Alright, what are we looking at with this hand? I can play well, this is going to be a keep. Let's start there. So I can play Eldrazi Temple into City of Traders, and then just play Thought-Knot Seer into Thought-Knot Seer, and ignore the Cloudpost portion of my hand. I think I like that. It's a little awkward with my opponent's dazes, but the year is 2021. I don't think you're supposed to play around days most of the time. Like, your opponent has it or they don't. And the penalty for waiting to play around days is often death. But that's often been exemplified by the Dreadhorde Arcanist gameplay. But if I wait to play around a daze to play my Disruption spell, and then my opponent casts Show and Tell, I just feel like a total dummy, right? I guess these All-Ins Dusts probably could have been boarded out. Those are pretty fringe for actually doing what I want them to do. Well, I will take the Ponder. I have punched a hole in my opponent's hand. I will punch harder next turn. Just marginal. Oh, no, sorry, they had a Ponder turn 1. That's not just thinning. What does that do? So towards Eldrazi, I could have those 2 mana. I don't know that that actually does much this turn. It's interesting for later. think I think I like the just the pressure that Thought Not Seer provides. Oh baby, that's a good hit. All right, is there any world where I want to play Cloud Post this turn? No, I need my City of Traders mana next turn to play Karn, and then that'll shut off a Lotus Petal, making it harder for them to combo off. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yes, yes. Hello, Glimmer Post. Actually, is it better to just Sorceress Spyglass? No, this is gone. My opponent has 1 unknown. No, I think Karn's better. Go ahead and Karn minus. Let's get a Meteor Golem. Hell yeah, let's get a Meteor Golem. Get in here, bud. You deserve your time in this video. You and your, like, Avengers superhero pose. Actually, no, I take it back. It looks like it's a, like, skid to a halt rather than, like, a straight downfall, like, hit the ground, like, brrr. So I guess it's not like stereotypical superhero landing. Or like rough airplane landing. Yes. Hello? This is my Meteor Golem. I will point it at your Grizzlebrand. Thanks for letting me do it, though. Like, I do appreciate it. Do I snip that one? Is that a good advertisement point? Maybe we can do better later in the league. I wonder if I am supposed to board in Snaring Bridge, since Meteor Golem is probably the thing I get with Karn most of the time if I'm trying to play around a show and tell. Although Ensnaring Bridge is better against sneak attack, so fishing that out of the board that way is good. These All Is Dusts are pretty questionable, but I'd be playing like Walking Ballista in their place. I think I keep All Is Dust for the off chance that I get like Grizzleband pass or sneak attack pass. Whether or not I board in Ensnaring Bridge is, I think, a little closer. think I'm only getting sound out of one of my headphones right now. In between videos, I may or may not have caught my headphone cord on my chair in a rather embarrassing fashion, but you'll never know for sure. Yep, hand is great. Alice on 1, into Thought Seer, into Reality Smasher. This is like old school Eldrazi aggro shit right here. I love it. My opponent cast Show and Tell. I think I put in Golos and fetch Caracas. That seems pretty cash money, as the children say. They don't actually say that. Okay. Can't Golos this turn. I guess this turn is Thought Seer. Oh no. They have multiple different creatures. So I guess I need to take Emrakul. They can make a Grizzlebrand. I can cast Golos, hope they don't find Force of Will. Get Caracas, do the thing. Man, they had to have double beasties. Unfortunate. We have a pretty ideal opening hand, so I can't, like, really complain about anything that has happened here. Sorry, I'm thinking about Blast Zone destroying Arcane Artisan real quick. Put one counter on it this turn, another counter on it the following turn, and then blow up, but I'll have taken 14 damage from Grizzlebrand by then, and my opponent will have a billion cards. I think I have to go for the Golos this turn. I guess they can also just find Daze, which is rough. I think if they put in and draw 7 cards and then counter my Golos... Oh my god, it resolved. Yes, thank you! Give me that Caracas. And now I won't attack into the Grizzlebrand token. Please don't have, like, drawn another Emrakul. Alright. Note, my opponent theoretically has a line where they just, like, draw 7 more cards, play Sneak Attack, Emrakul, and then kill me this turn. But if they go for that line and miss, they probably die. Alright, that's the requisite mana to kill me. Am I dead? This much thought makes me think that I am currently not dead. Oh. Ancient Tomb is now off with that draw 7. Okay. Oh, no. Not the Emrakul. I'm supposed to be the Emrakul deck. Alright. GG, opponent. You beat a very, very good hand to take down that one. No regrets. What do you think, YouTube? Keep the hand with no payoff? No. This hand looks better. Let's keep this. Cloud Post into Vesuvic. Cloud Post means that turn 3 Karn is, like, very easy. Throw back Eldrazi Temple. It's the one land in this hand that is not a post. Or a post imposter. Vesuva is sus. You heard it here first. Alright, more snow. I theoretically think that we're supposed to go over the top of these decks just fine. But rounds 1 and 2 were a little bit of a struggle. Alright, what's the play? I can play a Glimmer Post and have 3, 6, 7 mana, which is not double spelling unless I play Karn. Karn is played around Spell Pierce. Karn is not played around Force of Will or Force of Negation. I kind of like sandbagging the Karn a little bit. Actually, no. Play Cloud Post. Then I have 6 total mana, which is plenty for this turn. Then next turn, I can both Karn and Reality Smasher in the same turn cycle. Oh, Force of Will, pitch a Force of Negation. That's pretty good for me. Means this stuff's pretty likely to resolve in the next turn cycle. I like Okomi. Monastery Mentor. So if I play Glimmer Post, I actually have 4, 8, 12, 13 mana. Which is Arn minus leave it at 3. Play Mycosynth Lattice. Oh, no, I need to play the other post. Can I play Vesuva instead? So I play Vesuva tapped. And then it's 4, 8, 12. Which is still fine. Come on, Karn. I could style by getting Meteor Golem. But I think this is just a win. Well, fuck me, I guess. So that daze means that my opponent now has 3 power in play, which kills Karn. God, that's rough. Man. Thought I was in the clear. I was not in the clear. I haven't done Eye of Ugin math yet, but I assume Eye of Ugin will end up murdering my opponent just fine. So this is 16 mana, so I can tap 2 of these to activate Eye of Ugin, leaving 1 floating. So that's 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I just have uncounterable, what's his face next turn? Olamog, Ceaseless Hunger. Or, well, not uncounterable, but I have the ability to cast one of those, and the trigger eating Monastery Mentor and also Dreadhorde Arcanist is not so. Let's just double check. So 16, use 8 of it to activate Eye of Ugin. Yeah. Where are you? Olamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. I will gladly cast. I will exile Monastery Mentor and Dreadhorde Arcanist. I have a big tentacled friend and a lot of stuff on holdover. I'm digging all these like super old bordery cards because they're colorless. Take a little bit of life here. Or just do it again. Probably just do it again, grab 2 other lands this turn, and then take an Emrakul afterwards. I could think about this, like, ever so slightly more. But it seems like this'll do, you know? My opponent can Swords to Plowshares my 10/10. Nope, not going for it. Oh, I see. They're going for it now because they get 2 more damage out of the ordeal. That makes sense. Alright, so how much mana do I actually have? So this is 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We are just at Emrakul time. I like Emrakul time. Emrakul clock is a good clock. Yeah, see, this is what I wanted to be doing all league. This right here. Just, like, grinding people out with a singleton Eye of Ugin. Alright. So, playing against Snow. What do I want to do? This version is slightly different. So my opponent is playing the, like, Dreadheart Arcanist, Ancient Tomb, Teferi, Hullbreacher version. So my Trinispheres are probably slightly better than normal. My Relic of Progenitus is probably fine. Spatial Contortion is a real card that I can be thinking about. So I think Spatial Contortion will end up being better than Warping Whale at the very least. How is Spyglass? Spyglass is okay. I don't know that Spyglass is great. I also don't know that Walking Ballista is great either, though. Forget if this deck Okos. I'm just going to assume the answer is yes because it plays Astrolabe. All my cards seem kind of fine. Is it a race? Like, do I need Grim Monolith? Maybe I can do without this. I will put the Grim Monoliths back in on the play, though. Just kind of awkward when the opposing blue deck can play Ancient Tomb and get ahead a turn on tempo. I am going to keep this. It kind of does nothing and it kind of does everything I could possibly want. It does nothing initially, but has, like, such great endgame potential. This is the sort of hand where if my opponent just goes, like, Hull Breacher into Days Undoing, I just lose. It's my plan to go very over the top of that and not care too much about it. Although it will obviously be good. I would now like to draw another post. Having 5 mana next turn is good. But having, you know, like drawing a Glimmer Post and then having access to 7 instead is way better. Alright, so opponent, going the aggro route. I don't have anything crazy like a Tabernacle, do I? Just, like, double check real quick. No. Golos and Forsaken Monument are both pretty good here. Both get dazed. Golos paves the way for Emrakul, which I think is how I actually win this. Actually, they both kind of do. If this resolves, I have a 3/5 body in play, which is not nothing. Playing Golos plays around Force of Negation. When I'm on the play, I want the Grim Monolith, and I also might want the Walking Ballista for Mentor. A little awkward. Like a lot of the removal spells I have access to are good against one or the other. So a Warping Whale could exile a Dreadhorde Arcanist, for example, but it doesn't hit Mentor. Whereas a Walking Ballista cast for X=2 answers a Mentor, but not an Arcanist. I'm going to take 10 this turn. And basically be dead to one spell next turn. So my opponent has 7 showing, so one spell on their turn kills me. What if I go to 11? Does that change things? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, that doesn't change things. I need one more mana to Karn Bridge, but that doesn't actually do anything. Do I just have to hope my opponent has no non-creature spells? Two, 4, 5. What if I view this as a soul land? 6, 7. I could Reality Smasher and not really anything else. Alright, not a great position. Okay. Let's try again on the play. So, my hand was good against a slower hand that wanted to play the long game, and my opponent just like tapped out for Mentor and killed me, and this hand was not prepared for that. Alright, on the play, let's take these Grim Monoliths in. Go Forsaken Monument out. I wonder if Chalice of the Void is like actively good. Same question for Sorcerer's Spyglass. Maybe it's more important for me to play cards that answer their like Dreadhorde Arcanists and Mentors instead of Sorcerer's Spyglass. Is also play like a Walking Ballista instead of Warping Whale. Now I have some non-bows in the deck, like Chalice on 1 plus Relic and Chronosphere plus cheap removal spells. We'll go places with this hand. We'll go places fast. I don't really have anything that's disruptive, but I have a couple of powerful cards that I can play that have high impact on a game. So I'll start with Ancient Tomb into Grim Monolith. And then next turn I can Golos or Reality Smasher. Reality Smasher is the better clock, but Reality Smasher is easier to cast later than Golos is because I have 2 Eldrazi specific soul lands here. That was top with Preordain. Ooh. Trinosphere is good. How do I sequence when that's the draw? I think I just take a full turn off to cast that off of Eldrazi Temple and Ancient Tomb. I think that's worth that tempo loss. Nice. And now our next spell is uncounterable, and my opponent can't play anything this turn unless they have Ancient Tomb. Alright. So 2, 4, 7, 8, 9. I don't get both. What do I want in play this turn? I can save Grim Monolith by tapping Golos. Or sorry, I can save Grim Monolith and play... I was thinking about Days, but I don't need to be thinking about Days because of Trinosphere. I think I just jam Reality Smasher. 2, 4, 5. Go ahead and do it this way. There's that Mentor. 2, 4. Yeah, I probably just all is dust that. Like, I know it's one card, but it's a very good card. And also just be thinking about activating Eye of Ugin. Eye of Ugin, so strong. Now I have, like, Golos left over with Eye of Ugin in the tank. My opponent probably has to 2-for-1 themselves to get rid of Reality Smasher. Not 100% of the time, but a good portion of the time. This also could be a round where Golos' activated ability becomes relevant. Ooh, where on the Trinosphere? Alright, opponent's life total going to be under a lot of pressure. They're going to be at 4. I have shuffled with that Ponder. I like this. Like this a lot. Let's start this turn here. Oop. Alright, I can't count. 1, 2. Oh, right, this isn't a soul land for you. Is it better to just activate Eye of Ugin? I'm going to think about that while I just attack. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can just activate Eye of Ugin, and then next turn I have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 towards that. Yeah, let's just activate Eye of Ugin in this turn cycle. Probably just getting a Walking Ballista, honestly. Nice, we get there. All right, I think we're up to 2-2 now. Let's see if I can bring home the bacon in the last round. Final round, I am on the play. I think I'm gonna keep this hand. It's slightly awkward in that I can't do this chalice on turn one, which I probably really want to do on turn one. But I have a lot of other things going for me. I talk for a long time here about like which land I want to play first and why. But I think I'm just gonna go ahead and play Glimmer Post and pass the turn. There's some worlds where I want to play Eldrazi Temple first for the upside of potentially copying it later. Oh, we are probably playing against lands of some nature. Uh, in which case, do I still Chalice on one? If it's a like Reclaimer build, yes. If it's not, probably not. I'm gonna go ahead and Chalice on one. My opponent's on an Elvish Reclaimer build. Okay. This also just could be traditional lands. Or depths. In which case, not holding up the Warping Whale could be punishing here if my opponent has exactly this. Oh. Well, not exactly this, but... Well, shit. Oh, I'm at 23. Is everything actually fine? Like, can I get Golos into play, find Caracas? Suva, copy, Glimmer Post, Warping Whale, Golos enters tapped. Alternatively, can I work towards Emrakul somehow? Probably not. I think I enter with ice counters, right? Yeah, I should enter with ice counters. It copies this. Alright, I don't exactly think I have outs here. Oh. I see. We can maybe work with this. The mana better? Mana might be better. I can take 2. Go to 24. Take another 22 next turn. Yeah, okay, the mana's better. We've got a game going. I'm not going to attack in with the Eldrazi Scion. That goes so wrong if my opponent calls that. So that finds Caracas. Ooh, I didn't do math to see if Cloud Post might be better. Cloud Post would have been 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cloud Post would not have been better. But if I had another land, it would have been better. Like if I had a land in hand. So a Not of This World, a Wasteland, a Tutor for a Wasteland, a Stifle. There's plenty of things that beat me here. Okay. So that means I need to get rid of Merit Lodge on my opponent's turn, not on my turn. What do I do with my remaining mana? I have 5 towards an Eldrazi. I could cast a Reality Smasher. I also could cast a Chalice on 2. I also could just cast Grim Monolith. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then ripping a land turns on Olamog. I think I like that. Alright, we're sweating this one out a little bit. So now I just upkeep kill this, right? Don't give them another chance to draw into an All is Dust. Nice. This game is intense. Karn. Karn is great. Figure out what Karn does. Everything I get is kind of a half measure, where it almost does something right, but doesn't quite do it right. I could just take the Ensnaring Bridge, put that in play. And that's probably the safest option. And then I can start attacking my opponent's lands afterwards. My opponent can Vampire Hexmage and kill my Karn, so I can't start doing that. Whew, okay. Picked up the concession there. So we are playing against Turbo Depths. Let's figure out what we have for this matchup. Ensnaring Bridge is great, but probably needs to stay in the sideboard. I think I want to board in Spyglass. Trinisphere is kind of questionable. As is Spatial Contortion, as is Warping Whale, as is Walking Ballista. I think this needs to stay in the board. I think having 4 effective copies of that is just too important. Alright. Chalice is Ballista is All is Dust is Glimmer Post, strong. I don't know that I like Forsaken Monument. Having access to one tutorable ballista is fine. The worlds where I actually get to all his dust and Merit Lodge are kind of small. But for some of the mid-rangey stuff that my opponent can board in, and for like theoretical worlds where my opponent has something like Sylvan Library plus Vampire Hexmage, they're fine to keep around. I could also just like trim a Grim Monolith, because a lot of times on turn 1, I'm going to want to play a Sorcerous Spyglass if I have the opportunity to, rather than a Grim Monolith. So let's go ahead and trim that, and then I'll probably board slightly differently on the play, where I'll keep the Grim Monolith and like maybe board out an All Is Dust or a small Ugin or something. All right, so I remember a minute ago where I said Glimmer Post was great. It's not quite this good. Is it this good? It's probably this good though. All right, Redundant Karn can go back. Glimmer Post alongside the Ancient Tomb is a touch awkward. Like, that's not going to 100% keep me over 20. Opponent has an interesting choice. Do they take my only turn 1 play? Or do they take something that's very dangerous to their core strategy, because Karn offers just so many different potential BS things out of the sideboard? All right, that will go and find a Dark Depths. Yep. Ah, Emrakul, the Aeon's turn. Perfecto timing. We're 1 mana short of Thought-Knot Seer this turn. Alright, we have Glimmer Posts for days. I think I need to cast this Thought-Knot Seer, accepting that if my opponent has a Spirit Guide, I just die on the spot for tapping this land. There's the Spirit Guide. Okay. Alright, opponent was well prepared. Go ahead and concede here. On the play, I will take this Grim Monolith. And maybe junk like a Ballista and All Is Dust or an Ugin, something of that general ilk. Try junking that. It's also possible that I could just cut the Emrakul, because casting an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is just going to be good enough in most cases. There's no lands there. There are lands here. What does this hand do? Turn 1 Cloud Post, turn 2 Chalice of the Void, and then I have nothing that's relevant. Unfortunately, I think this one needs to be a mulligan as well. Oh god, why? Okay. My opponent is currently on a mulligan to 6. My opponent has mulligan to 5. Do I keep this? On 4, I would be looking for something like Ancient Tomb, Spyglass, or something that assembles 4 mana on turn 2. I think that's going to be better than this. This is just like hope to top deck something. Ugh. This is also hope to top deck something, unfortunately. I think I need to keep the Ancient Tomb. And play Grim Monolith on 1, and then just hope to grab something. Anything. Keep the All as Dust, or do I just keep all my land? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I pitched the Glimmer Post. Sorry, Glimmer Post. This isn't exactly how you're hoping the league to end. My opponent's average 5-card hand is going to be way better on the draw than my 4-card hand on the play. A Duress here is also just brutal. Why'd I say it? Okay, well, I accept. That's very lucky on my end. Pick up a Liquid Metal Coating. We will do the old Rishadan Port trick here. And shut that off. And hopefully blowing up one of my opponent's lands per turn for the rest of the game is good enough. I think Needle Karn is a very good counterplay here. It's 4 mana to untap this, which I don't actually technically have. I have 3 mana. I need 1 more mana for a Reality Smasher. Okay. So we're chilling. I still get Rishadan Port every turn, which is worth something. All in all, things are a little unfortunate right now. Am I copying their Wasteland? Guess I'll copy their Wasteland. I'll force them to make the decision about their Wasteland now. See if they want to, like, trade Wastelands. They do. So my opponent gets to attack Karn down and then attack Karn down again. And then this card loses text. They could also just shut this off here. Alright, they're choosing my Singleton Caracas. They have Sylvan's Crying for Dark Depths. All in all, that was a rough turn. A lot of bad things happened there. With Caracas shut off, I don't really know that I have outs. Like, I cast Thought Knot Seer, and then that's that. Alright, what was that? My turn 2 Karn with Liquid Metal Coating was not good enough to stop Rainbow Depth's deck is too strong. GG, opponent. Well played. I need to do my debrief. Alright, I think we had below average draws this league. I didn't just like naturally draw into an early Ulamog and just double strip mine people, I think, at all. I think I had to tutor up Ulamog every time that I found it. And like I never resolved either one of these cards. This stuff was fine, and like Karn obviously ends games just fine. But I didn't feel like I was that much bigger than what my opponents were doing in a lot of these rounds. So a lot of times when you play 12 post, you just like feel the overwhelming power of your end game just decimating your opponents. And I felt like the cards on the other side of the table, like Monastery Mentor, were just as scary as the cards that I was playing for a much higher mana cost. So I don't have a necessarily a negative impression of the deck after this league. I don't want to convey that. But I don't know that I'd want to take this to you know, a Premier Legacy event of some nature right now. As far as individual card choices, Sorcerer Spyglasses were fine, but often not game-breaking. And Golos was pretty good. The ability to tutor up lands was cool. Maybe it's strong enough to include more than one of them. I'm not sure about that. I don't know how I feel about the 3 Chalice of the Voids in the matchups where that was important. It's theoretically very, very, very important. But Sorcerer Spyglass shutting off Oko and Teferi and other things of that ilk were like certainly very good this league. Overall, I'd be willing to play this deck again, but I don't know that I give it the hearty fill seal of approval or anything like that. Alright folks, let me know what you thought of the deck list in the comments, and if you've made it this far and you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can find my content more easily in the future. Have a great rest of the day.